Welcome to Rainbow Soul Vodcast, where our Soulstrology comes forward to help you manage your everyday life, with forecasts and deep dives on natal charts and queer perspectives on the planets, transits, and more. A group discussion about upcoming transits with tips on how to read these transits in your own chart. Hollis offers years of wisdom and natal chart knowledge with Bright Hawk's positive perspective and Lacrosse's inquiry. We offer the complete queer astrology experience. Welcome to Rainbow Soul. Please help us by subscribing, sharing, and commenting and reviewing. You can also learn where else Rainbow Soul is offered on our website at rainbowsoul.show.
Hi there, this is Hollis, and I am one of your astrologers today we're at Rainbow Soul, Soulstrology Forecast. Yeah, I know where I'm at. And and I'm an astrologer. I do natal charts and synastry, and I also do something I call death charts, or the charts of the people that have died, and help you understand. It can be really helpful for like suicide or death that you're having a hard time coming to understand. So, and you can check me out at my website, divineandrogen.com, which is down in the description. And
hi there, I'm Bright Hawk. You can always learn more about me at brighthawkproductions.com. I'm an author, an artist, astrologer, musician, storyteller. This book, The Dancing Hippo, makes a great gift. Kids love it. It's been super fun to share. It's a story about resilience, and I think resilience is something we all need in these days.
Great. Mm-hmm.
And
I'm Lacrosse Ortiz. I am the creator of the Fool's Journey Color Journal. You can find me on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. So there we go. I'm like, it's right there and there. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm glad you're all here. I'm so grateful that you're listening today. And I'm so grateful that you're here with us. And I hope that everything's going well for you. And I want to invite you to join us in our little opening meditation. So just take a minute to put your feet on the floor. Let any stress or anxiety just kind of fall off of you. Take a few deep breaths and become present in the here and now. And allow the music to take you out into the universe. Sun shining bright and hot, and all of the planets circling around. In their beauty and in their own rhythm. And the one planet that will stand out today will be Mars. Mars, one of the fastest moving planets of all. As it speeds around its orbit, moving around as fast as it can. Mars brings speed and action. Sometimes it can be helpful to get us out of the seat, to get us going. And sometimes it's just a little too fast. pushes us forward, it also reminds us of the impact of our actions or lack of action or fast action. It reminds us of how everything we do impacts those around us and the world around us. And sometimes there's conflict, and Mars stays steady in that conflict. And as Mars begins to show us the impact of our conflicts, Mars asks us to learn from that conflict. To evolve past the conflict, beyond the conflict, to a higher vibration. We can learn from conflict, take from it what we need, choose to engage or not. We can walk away from conflict. But Mars is in the sky, and when Mars is at its strongest, conflict often shows its ugly head. And sometimes conflict is needed in order to resolve a problem. But we can also stand firm in knowing that there's other ways to resolve other than fighting. And Mars, the god of war, asks us to evolve, to change, to recognize our impact, our actions, and be aware of the action that we take each day and each moment as an individual, as a family, as a community, as a country, and as a world. And as Mars pulls back into its very fast orbit, its heated run around the sun, we can take a deep breath and come to understand Mars a little bit more deeply. And we can come back to planet Earth with our feet firmly landing on the ground, on the floor, our bottoms in the seat. Taking a deep breath. And coming back into our bodies in the here and now. Wiggle our toes and move our fingers and open our eyes. And come back into our here and now. Great job, Bright Hawk.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for that beautiful meditation.
Thanks. And just gonna say, Mars has been pretty prominent,
Boy, oh boy.
and it's been in its ruling sign now, I think, since the conflict started. But it's been in Scorpio, which is the sign that
It's
it rules.
exalted in, but it doesn't rule it, does it?
It rules Scorpio. Mhm.
Oh, I thought.
It's the traditional ruler.
Oh,
Scorpio.
the traditional, of course.
Yeah. Mars and Pluto rule Scorpio.
Mars and Pluto, right?
Mhm.
Mars. Pluto's the higher octave of Mars, which I always find fascinating
Mm-hmm.
because we always talk about Pluto being transformation and Mars is action.
So if Mars is creating some conflict in your life, I'm just going to say, just take a look at it. Okay. So, I believe that the conflicts that are happening in the world is meant for those countries to take a look at it and see what needs to change. Okay. And that goes for all sides. All right. And I'm not here to take sides or say anyone was right or wrong. I'm just saying that when we have conflict, sometimes it's better to take a step back, learn from the Libras in your world, take a step back and just take a look at it. And first of all, is the conflict worth it? And that's like always my first question. Is this worth it?
Is this going to matter in 5 years?
Yeah. And sure, there are some things that will matter. And then you have to say, is there a different way to resolve this? Okay.
Can I say,
Yeah.
I want to add 2 things if I can capture them off the top here. Anger, actually 3 things. Anger, the first thing I want to say about anger, because we all have to deal with it. Most of us hate our anger, our own expression of it. We hate when we go there. We hate how it feels. So first thing I want to say is it's a secondary emotion. It is not a primary emotion. So if, by the grace of God, go any of us, you can breathe, be curious, ask yourself some questions instead of letting it take off like a fucking bottle rocket. You can learn, you can change, you can grow, you can choose not to express your worst angry self. So that's what I want to say first. The second thing I want to say about anger as a secondary emotion is, in my experience, some of my teachers talked about how anger, and this is good to use the analogy of the Incredible Hulk, anger is there to make you feel bigger than your circumstances. It shows up because you are pissed off at whatever's happening and it's unacceptable. And you want to become bigger than the thing so you can deal with it. So you're powerful, right? So it raises our energy up. And in that way, anger can be addictive because it makes us feel powerful. Our adrenaline goes, and all of a sudden there's a clarity because we're ready to do that fight or flight thing. Well, we're ready to fight, man. And when we're in that hyper state, we can become addicted to that because all of a sudden we're really, really focused. And again, I would say if you can ask yourself a question about what's making me feel small, or why do I feel like I have to get bigger than this situation? So we're not 3 and 4-year-olds throwing a tantrum anymore, because that really worked. And the worst thing is in some cases, maybe it did. And you got rewarded. And so now you throw a tantrum thinking the world's going to change for you. And you probably have learned a few times that that's probably not going to happen. So again, if we can be curious, if we can know that it's not a primary emotion, it's a secondary emotion, then ask what in this situation is making me feel powerless? What can I do about it? And really be smart about it, not hurt anyone else, not hurt myself. These are very mature things to be able to do, where we stop reacting and we start responding to our world in a way that we can be proud of, instead of later feel the shame and the guilt that comes after an angry explosion. I don't know what I'm talking about. Just ask. So that's the second thing I want to say. And then the third thing I want to say about emotion, about anger as this emotion that we want to get bigger than, is if we can really let it go and look at what's under it. Because we often talk about there's a hierarchy of feelings. And anger is the easiest one, and sometimes in our culture, in our family, the most acceptable one to express, because what's really under there is sadness and grief and frustration. And oh, if I really get to the nub of this, I'm not pissed at them, I'm pissed at me because I didn't speak my whatever truth, your boundary, your whatever was yours, and you didn't do something that you now feel angry about it inside. And that sucks. So let's fucking project and make it someone else's fault. And that's my third point, is that if you can be curious and not hurt yourself, but be like, what's under all of this? Oh, I know why I'm pissed at them, because I'm pissed at me, because I didn't do what I said I was going to do, because I failed to blah, 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 blah. And then the sooner you can get there, the sooner you can forgive, because all of us have our days. And you just go, whoa, I didn't do what I wanted to get done. I forgive myself immediately. I forgive the people around me who I'm ready to punch in the face because I'm so frustrated with whatever it is that's going on in here. That's usually what anger is all bundled up to be. So that concludes this lecture. Thank you for listening.
Well,
Hard-won experience that I hope I can save you some time.
Mars does rule anger, so depending on where your Scorpio is and where your Mars is.
And my Mars is on my rising sign, so it's in a very powerful, potent, holy crap. I have to really watch myself. And in this day and age, I'll be really honest with you, my biggest fear is that if I don't curtail my reaction, we live in a world with way too many guns. And you getting pissed at somebody over something as stupid as you cut me off or whatever, it's not worth your life. It's not worth anyone's life. So the more we can let go of our need to get off on being angry, recognize it's a really bad choice. And in some places it could cost you. Let's not go there. Please. I speak to my highest self and my lowest self, because that's what it always feels like. When anger happens, I always feel like it's the worst part of any of us, I think. I know a lot of people who talk about, I'm really afraid of my anger. And I'm like, feel ya.
How about you, Lacrosse? Do you have anything, tips that you can give about managing anger?
The main thing is stop. Just stop in your tracks.
Stop, drop, and listen.
Yeah, literally stop, drop, and roll, stop, and listen. Whatever you have to do, just stop, because if you don't stop, it's just going to continue to escalate. And I think sometimes, like, even like with my relationships, I shut down. Like, I'll be angry and I'll shut down. And then we're just like, what the hell just happened? I'm like, I'm stopping, because I know me. And I know I'm going to continue, and I'm going to continue. And that, I think I'm fortunate that the Libra in me will, okay, what are you doing here? Think about this. Stop. And that's what works for me. I just literally shut down immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Do you spend any time reflecting on why you're pissed off?
Oh, yeah. I spend because the whole point is I want to make sure that my anger didn't cause any pain. That is where my whole reflecting goes. I'm like, okay, did I say something out of turn? Did I do something out of turn? Did I react out of turn? Am I overreacting? Is this justifiable? It literally is going down your checklist, and then in the end, was this actual anger or was it righteous indignation? Because there's a difference. You can look at something and say, no, this is wrong, and be upset and have a righteous indignation about it, which a lot of people confuse with anger, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
and righteousness is very Virgo.
We wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah. So yeah, and I would say
rising.
that as a Libra moon, and there are many people out there that are fairly uncomfortable when other people express their anger, even if it has nothing to do with us. And when you find and that's me, I don't usually get terribly angry. I do sometimes, but I'm not usually like a road rager or anything like that. And so when other people express it, I have struggled with that discomfort. And you have to ask yourself, first of all, what happened to me? So what happened to you? So my mother is a very angry woman, and she would often get very angry at me. And so I think it was a little bit of trauma as a child. So you might want to reflect on the anger that came from your childhood. And then also, if you can, the best way to get through it, I found, is to just be like, this isn't like, first of all, if this person isn't even mad at you, like they're road raging or something like that, I do get annoyed with hearing it after some time, because I feel like it consistently brings down the vibration. And so then, you're trying to have a conversation or something, and the person keeps freaking out at some jackass cutting them off. And it's like, do we have to let that guy in the car, and can we just ignore this guy? And but then I also recognize sometimes when someone else is angry, I try to be like, this isn't about me. It's not about me. So you might just want to spend a little
strategy.
So you might just want to spend a little time, if you're one of those people like me and you get uncomfortable when other people are angry, just kind of this isn't about me, especially when it's not clearly not about you. So just saying, I think it's super important and super healthy to just say that and just let the person blow their steam out over there. And you can draw boundaries. I've drawn boundaries where I'm like, I don't want to listen to you bitch anymore, so you're gonna have to go outside, or I need to walk away, or I need to put my headphones on or something. So, and that those are boundaries, and that's okay. So I just want to say that, because there's also people on the other side of this, on the flip side. So,
so the reason why we're spending all this time talking about it, November 20th to the 26th, go ahead and bring up the deck.
Okay.
Is because for a while, Sun and Mars are dancing together in the sky. And so they're intensifying each other's energy. And this week, the 20th to the 26th, is when the Sun moves from Scorpio to Sagittarius.
Thank goodness. I think Mars is better in Sag. Just saying, because it's in Scorpio. It rules Scorpio, so that's why we've been seeing a lot of, Mars type energy, anger, and I have to fix the thing, anger, and just things like that.
Explosive.
Explosive type energy. That's why you're seeing that right now. So, I tried to reduce the aspects, so I just reduced who's being aspected in this, so you can see the lines that I'm pointing to. And the first one that stood out to me was, I thought it was interesting that even though Mars is in Scorpio, which sometimes indicates a very sharp tongue, and we have had some conflict, especially around the conflict with Israel and Gaza, people like sort of back and forth with each other and pretty sharp with each other, and that sort of sharp tongue. And that's Mars in Scorpio anyway, okay? But by the 20th, we should start to see Mercury in Sag, and it's gonna trine Chiron. So that's actually, hopefully we'll be able to talk out some sort of resolution to the conflict, hopefully. Because Chiron's about inherited wounds, and hate to say it, but war is, hate to break it to you, but war is an inherited wound. We've inherited it. For many, many generations have been warring with each other, and I believe that we can change it. So,
There's a lot of discussion these days. I'm sure you've heard the term of ancestral healing or healing ancestral trauma. What does that mean? So, this is the kind of conditions where we can talk about healing ancestral trauma. So, just think about for yourself for a second, whether you realized it or not, you may have accepted some of your parents, these siblings, grandparents, aunts and uncles, great grandparents. You may have accepted some of their wounds, some of their anger, some of their bitterness, some of their baggage, whether you realize it or not. Now, I would say in my experience that when you start down this road, most of it you don't realize at all. And then just like with astrology, you start learning. The more you learn, the more you go, oh my God, that's so true. Everybody in our family has that. No, 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 no. And this is how we begin to unwind it. This is how we begin to create healing that goes beyond ourselves. Because when we look at that stuff and we recognize grandma was always really bitter about, and you know what? I'm going to choose differently. Or I understand now why she was bitter and I do not have to be.
right.
Whatever that circumstance may be. And that's how we start to unwind that. And this kind of condition, Mercury trine Chiron, really helps look that in the face in a good way, in a really like you can do it.
Yeah, and with Mercury also sextiling Venus, it should be very much about how love can change things. You know, love can really change things. It really can change the way you view the world. It can change the way you interact with the world. And I personally will use the example of growing up in a racist home. The home I grew up in was very racist, racist against Mexican people and Black people. And I really took a lot of time. Well, I got in trouble a couple of times as a kid for having Black friends and didn't really understand why. But that's an inherited wound. And I did find that there were some thought patterns that were inherited because of that, and then later started to shed those and started to work on making sure that I wasn't still holding those things. And so Chiron can sometimes be a little subconscious. It can be like, how did we end up here? Why is this an acceptable way of resolving conflict or whatever? And so so just trying to find other ways of dealing with things. And Mercury trine Chiron in your personal life, you know, could very much look like you talking out or being able to process some sort of generational trauma or some sort of inherited wound of some sort, and bringing love into it. That was the part that I was like, especially with Venus in its ruling sign. So Venus is in Libra. And so love is really trying to shine out here, and you just have to grab love. And I have personally healed many things with love. And I assure you that is not just a cool saying. Really, honestly, love does heal everything, okay? I'm not just a crazy hippie. And it does really. And maybe because it's the opposite of hate, maybe. And Venus represents love. It also represents physical things, items, and money, and relationships.
So it's always so interesting to me as we start to look at each chart and each day how the themes pop out, because the moon is in Pisces. So Pisces is all about the we. It's a very loving sign. It's a very we oriented community, taking care of the whole of everybody, taking care of everybody, making sure everybody's looked after. And so the moon in Pisces, when it's in Pisces, of course, it's going to answer to Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, the modern ruler of Pisces, and that's easy to remember. Pisces is the ocean, the fishes, right? Neptune, god of the sea, right? Originally, it was Jupiter. And so then again, you think Jupiter, big, vast, the ocean's the biggest body on the planet. So the other thing we think about when we think about Pisces, we think about mutability, because of course it's water, it's mutable, right? It's the end of the season. The last sign of the season is always mutable. And of course, Pisces is followed by Aries, which would be a cardinal sign, the beginning. And then the other thing we know about it, of course, is it's very watery. And the moon loves water, right? Because its water sign is Cancer. It's the ruler of Cancer. So all of these things point to a lot of beauty around love, relationship, emotion, working things in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the interesting thing. This is the beginning of the holiday Thanksgiving week, right? This is Monday. It's conjunct Saturn in Pisces at 0 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can just see people working out like who should be at whatever their family dinner is or what have you. And it could actually, things could actually go well, I think.
Okay.
Could be, I think you have positive structure there with conjunct moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess Thanksgiving's Saturn. Like in a couple of days, the 23rd. Yeah, 24th.
24th, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah, the week starts off really well.
Well, and with Mars sextiling Pluto, like Bright Hawk was saying earlier, Pluto is the sort of higher vibration or whatever of Mars. And so because it's about transformation, Pluto is about transformation and Mars is about action, right? So action is how we get to transformation. And Mars is sextiling Pluto. So and Mars is in its rulership in Scorpio. So that's also an excellent aspect in that they're going to put down their differences and hopefully bring transformation. So with Mercury trining Chiron and sextiling Venus, it starts to say, is change going to happen? Maybe some sort of change is going to happen. And, even if we don't see it in the world, maybe we'll at least see it within our families and within each other. And, there is always free will at play, and people can choose not to listen to what their stars and what their heart is telling them. That is free will. Everybody has free will all the time. But if you're listening to your intuition, your instinct, and you're living your life, you'll probably find that these things are happening, and hopefully you're not resisting them. The biggest, hardest thing this week is that Mars will square Saturn, and I think that has a little bit of a reflection of our world, and it almost makes you think like in our personal lives, all of us are kind of like, I think everyone can agree that it would be great if we didn't have this horrible conflicts in our world. And I think everybody would agree on that, regardless of where you live or where your opinion lands. You would all react to it in the same way. We wish this conflict wasn't happening. And that's Mars square Saturn. Really, Mars is about conflict and it's about war, and Saturn's about the system. Why does our system work this way? Does it have to work this way? Isn't there some other way we can do this? Why do we keep ending up in war? I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts like that, especially with the younger generation and even people that are a little bit more progressive or aware. We're sick and tired of this conflict thing. There's some of the older generation, they seem to think it's necessary, but I think a lot of more progressive minds are like, no, it's not necessary, and we can move beyond this. And I think that's probably what we're going to be seeing with that Mars square Saturn. And the Saturn and the moon are, with each other in Pisces. So
Right. It's really easy to see this square. I just want to point out for a second, this is how you figure out that we're at a quarter moon. The first quarter moon or half moon is when the sun squares the moon. So you can see the sun is conjunct Sirius, which is all about what are you nurturing in the world. And then it's also conjunct Mars, which we've talked a lot about. And it's and you see that Mercury is there. It's not totally part of it yet. And then all of that is, those three are square Saturn and the moon. So sometimes, and this is I think is going to be a good example, squares can be blessings because they can make you have the conversation, make you take the action, make you get off your ass and do whatever it is that you said you wanted to do in this world. And if we have nothing but trines in our chart and in our we'll just talk about a personal chart. When we see a ton of trines, people that have so many trines where life is so easy, they never have the motivation or the challenge to get through anything. So they just coast. And what we know, common knowledge, look at any boy, you can, the books, the libraries are filled with books and stories and examples of folks that did amazing things because they were incredibly challenged. From God, Franklin Delano Roosevelt to, people who do amazing things after they've been severely handicapped in one way or another. The guy who climbed Mount Everest blind, I think, just crazy things. Myself, I know for my own example, and it took me only about 20 years in hindsight to realize, shattering my kneecap. I don't have a right kneecap. If I hadn't done that, I probably never would have bothered climbing the highest mountain in the continent of Europe. Why? Because I had something to prove. I could do it. I could make it. So challenge is what creates opportunity to rise up, be stronger, be more. And this square that happens with the sun and the moon, and happens every month, twice actually. And in this configuration that we've been talking about, means it might not always be comfortable, but in that confronting, there's an opportunity to really make progress.
Hopefully our leaders, and this is where it becomes important that you vote, is that hopefully our leaders will make the more high vibrational choice and try to work with each other. And and I recognize that not every country gets the privilege to vote, but hopefully we'll all work towards that.
All right.
So and Venus here on Tuesday, right? Yeah, Tuesday. Venus is opposing Chiron, and that's directly across the sky from it. So we have all the aspects that we talked about yesterday, but about on Monday. So the same kind of energy will come through. But on this day, Venus gets very strong in an opposition to Chiron. While it's still sextiling and while Mercury is still trining Chiron. And so this makes me think about, there could be some opposition which requires balance. And this is like about cooperation, really. When you start to think about Venus and Chiron, I immediately come to cooperation, because cooperation is a form of love. Give a little, get a little. That's how it works. And Chiron is about inherited wounds. And with Venus in its rulership, hopefully Venus will help us learn how to cooperate or to collaborate. So that's what I'm hoping and praying for. And I'm hoping the leaders listen to this call from the sky to learn how to balance things.
It's so funny. Here we go. We're repeating that same exact theme with Venus opposing Chiron, except it's the moon opposite Juno, which is all about what are you loyal to in your relationships. Juno's has some similarities to Venus.
Mm-hmm.
But Juno's biggest difference is Venus is always, I think of her as Venus as an independent, and Juno is all about marriage.
Marriage.
She's the queen of Jupiter. She's the queen of heaven, as they say. And Jupiter is represented by Zeus, in the gods story. So you have the moon in Pisces opposite Juno, and it's in a T-square to Mercury. Everything you just said, communication, what's going on, and then the moon is also in a sextile to Uranus. So there could be radical change, something unseen, and hopefully in a good way if you work this aspect in a good way. It could also blow up and be really challenging if you're not working it not.
Yeah, if you let the square take over.
Yeah, if you let the Mars, run you.
Right.
If you let rage get ahead of you, then it could be scary.
Sometimes I've seen it where it gets really bad and then we find a resolution.
Yeah.
Because of how bad it got.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So opportunity to rise up and do it in a good way. That's what I would say. And pay attention to what the people in your world are communicating, because it's in a square to Mercury. So
yeah, I would definitely be paying attention and listening to what people are saying, because that will have a lot to do with this week with Mercury in Sag. And, Mercury in Sag, I feel like, is pretty good and charming. So, like people might be saying positive things. All of a sudden, someone might be changed and they might all of a sudden be complimenting you. So you have to assume they're not being sarcastic. Okay. Like someone you've had a conflict with in the past, and now all of a sudden they're complimenting you, and you're like, right?
Yeah, is it a compliment or a love bomb from a narcissist?
Right. But actually people can change. I've witnessed change in people, and so we can be hopeful that that's what's happening. On this day, this is the first day of Sun in Sag, which is the 22nd. So happy birthday to the Sages, right? And happy birthday, Bright Hawk. Well, it's not quite your birthday, but we'll be getting there. Huh?
Yeah. I'm at the exact opposite end of Sagittarius.
Right.
I'm like the last seconds of Sag on winter solstice.
It is hilarious. Yeah.
29 degrees.
She's barely a Sag. She's
30 seconds or something. I don't quite remember.
She's what we call a Sagicorn. So if you've been born on the cusp, that's what it means. In fact, even if you were born on this day, you're part Scorpio, part Sun. So
that's right. And you should look up what.
Part Sag.
Yeah, you should always, if you're within 48 hours of a cusp, you should definitely check what that cusp is about.
I think it's called a Scorpiotarius or something like that. And Scorpitarius or something like that. And essentially it's just a mixture of the two signs. But there is some information out there about people that are born on the cusp.
Yeah.
So, and there's a couple of days. It's like, the day before. So it would be like the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd. It's like those couple of days right around when it changes. And that's called a cusp. Okay. And Neptune trine Mars on this day. I actually thought that might be kind of nice, because Mars is in its rulership, so it will be very strong again. But Venus is still in her rulership and even stronger now in opposition to Chiron. And so I feel like Mars and Venus are having a little bit of a conversation, because even though they're not necessarily aspecting each other, but Venus is opposite Chiron, saying, what's up with your relationships? And these goes for not just love and romantic relationships, but business and political relationships. Can we resolve how we relate with each other? Can we find peace? And you've inherited this. Maybe you can find a better way to deal with this. While Neptune is trining Mars, it's almost as if Neptune, which is the very dreamy, peace-loving, because Pisces loves to make peace. Pisces will put themselves in the middle of a conflict and try to create peace. And I feel like Neptune, that's what Neptune is doing here. Neptune is saying to Mars, Do we have to? And I know Neptune and the moon are conjunct with moon and in Aries, but I still feel like Neptune in its rulership, Mars in its rulership, there's a real ask for peace here. And if you listen to our world, what we've been listening to for the last week or so around the conflicts in our world, you've heard people say this. You've heard more and more people come to, let's find peace. Let's end this conflict. Can we find a different way to deal with this? Yeah, it's a problem, but let's try to deal with this in a different way. Have we overcome this? Do we really need to do this? Okay, and so that's Mars and Neptune trining, and I think that's a good aspect. I'm praying that it's a good aspect. Trine is a really ease of blessing, and Pisces is in peace, and Mars is in its rulership. So hopefully they'll be able to find some sort of answer to peace. And Venus is still asking us to resolve our conflicts. Because that's that conflict with Chiron and Aries. Aries is also ruled by Mars.
Right.
So Aries also rules conflict, and Aries also rules military and the war. So, and Chiron is there, and it's really saying to us, what is our inherited wounds? Can we change this? Can we change this about humanity? And I know that's a big ask, but I think it starts with politics.
Well, it's always so fascinating how the themes pop out in what you're sharing and then what I'm seeing with the moon. So we still have the moon in Pisces, which we've talked about, but now it's a void moon, which means it's a little bit weaker, and it moves into Aries. And so when it's in Aries, hello, the moon is going to be answering to our buddy Mars. Here we go again. And in that, it's in a trine to Mars and Ceres, and it's conjunct Neptune, which is in its rulership. So all of those, what does that mean? All of that means everything Hollis just said. Positive energy towards taking action in the direction of your dreams in a good way. You know, Neptune's about your dreams. Mars is about action. Ceres is about what you're manifesting in the world. So if there's something that you want to make forward motion on with this, I would say yay. Move in the direction of your dreams. What brings you bliss? What lights you up? Do more of that.
Yeah, and I just really feel like there's a opportunity here for our leaders. So pressure your leaders, speak out about peace. You don't have to take a side to ask for peace. I'm just saying. So you don't have to take a side. Moon conjunct Chiron. And the two of them are opposing Venus. So I feel like, again, this is going to add to the emotion of people saying, really? Do we have to do this? We have done this for so many centuries. And not just, and it could also be about your own personal experience. It's probably going to be a micro and a macro, where you're looking internally. Why do I keep doing this? This is my old wounds. This is from my childhood, and with the emotion of it. Okay, the emotion of things.
Yeah,
and the intuition.
Yeah, because the North Node is involved, and when we've talked about the North Node, that's the direction of our destiny. And what we talked about earlier was it's having to meet the hard moments that make us bigger, better, and wiser than we were before. And hopefully choosing wisely, right? Let's choose peace, not war. Let's choose life, not death, right? Just basic shit. So you have that conjunction with the moon, which is, by the way, void in this measurement. So it's a weaker moon. With the North Node, and it's all of that energy is opposite Venus, South Node. And South Node is your past lives, your past relationships, your past. So it's conjunct Venus and their
They-
degree is that's not enough to call that a tight conjunction.
Yeah, they're
That's
like
too many
almost 10
degrees.
degrees apart.
Yeah, so yeah, but the moon moves very quickly, and it's going to pass over Chiron, and it's going to pass over the south node, the north node, I'm sorry, and then in it the following day it'll be conjunct Jupiter. But yeah, so I don't want to belabor the point. I think I already have. Oh, and I guess we would say happy Thanksgiving on this. So hopefully there can be healing relations and no more battles.
Yeah, I would just be careful about like the system not being too attached to how you've always done Thanksgiving or how your family has always celebrated Thanksgiving. There could be a call for change, a call for a difference. So try not to be too attached to that. Like, well, we always took a walk before dinner, and now they're asking you to take a walk after dinner, or we always had this kind of cranberry sauce, like just try not to make stupid little petty shit like that, and just because I can see that happening with Saturn square Mars. So try not to do that. Try to ask that question: is this really worth talking about? Is this really worth bringing up? Yeah, so that's usually what I do. And once I ask myself that question, about half to 3/4 of the shit that bugs me isn't even worth bringing up, and I'm like, that's stupid. Just let it go. And it most of the time is kind of stupid. So Mars into Sag, on this day. It's like the next day. It says Friday, right? Mars into Sag, I feel like will calm Mars down. Mars is going to calm down. It's going to become more action. It might be fast action in Sag, but it's not going to be as volatile, if that makes sense. It's a little less volatile in Sag, even though it's a fire sign, because I feel like, okay, so sometimes Sag shoots off the arrow before they know where they're aiming, and the arrow can just land anywhere and be completely random.
What's wrong with fire ready aim? I thought that's the way it was supposed to go.
And but it's better than Scorpio in my opinion, because Scorpio just feels really volatile. Mars in Scorpio feels really volatile.
Scares me.
Yeah.
Stinger scares me. The other reason why this can be, we'll mention, how we talk about the signs being cardinal, fixed, and mutable. The beginning of the season, the middle, and the end of the season. So Sag is mutable, and Mars is usually associated with Aries, which is cardinal. So what does that mean? Well, cardinal signs are great at initiating. They're thinkers. They're, hey, we should do this. Hey, we should go there. And that can be great. That's some people. And other people are like, okay, how are we going to do that? Do you have a map? Okay, I'll get the map. And the mutables are often the ones who carry it out. And so I know a lot about this because I have a ton of mutable energy in my chart and like no cardinal energy. Hollis, on the other hand, has great cardinal energy, which means
sometimes too much.
Yeah, which means Hollis is a fountain of ideas. I would say you are as well, Lacrosse. Idea. And do I have enough time? Do I have the resources? Do I have the whatever it is that I need to have to pull this off? And sometimes the easy answer is yes, sometimes no. And what really makes it really work is having a buddy like me who is all that mutable energy that goes, oh, okay, well, we could do it this way, or we could do it this way, and going about implementing it and getting it done. Yeah. Getting it done. Where by the time I'm finishing getting it done, they've moved on to 17 new ideas. And I'm like, whoa, I did this idea. I executed it. Look at what I did, So life takes all of us. We need all of these things. There's a, great need for each of us. Without it, nothing happens. But when you move Mars, cardinal energy, into Sag, a mutable energy, suddenly people like me who are like, okay, I'm ready to paint, I'm ready to do whatever creative thing I'm ready to do. Where should I start? And then Hollis will just walk by, toss something over their shoulder of, oh, why don't you start with the crystal grids? What? Oh, that's what I'm doing? Oh, sure. Okay, great. On my way. Great energy is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so being aware if you have more cardinal or mutable or fixed energy is sometimes they're the ones that actually hold it out to the very, very end. They sometimes will take it too far, just like cardinals can take it too far, just like mutable can be like, I'm supposed to get up and do something now. And so, it's nice if you have a little bit of a balance.
Sure.
But I know I have a slightly more cardinal, but I'm pretty balanced. But I do have a lot more cardinal than anything else. So
Yeah.
cardinal beats out everything else.
And you have great ideas.
Yeah, and it's Jupiter in Aries has a lot to do with that. And so it tends to make the Aries energy
Boom.
big. And that's
Yeah.
what Aries is really good at. Good ideas, new ideas. So I did notice that Pluto is squaring the moon, Bright.
Right. So there's a lot of what we said about the day before, because now it's just on the other side of Chiron, right? And that
Yeah,
South node.
now it's with the node.
Yeah.
Pluto is squaring, because Pluto's been squaring the nodes forever.
And it's conjunct the nodes, and so that conversation we were having, and now it's square Pluto. It's in a sextile to Saturn, so that's good. So the energy of the moon is not as strong. I would say the strongest in that configuration is the node, right?
Yeah, I would say the node. I mean, but with the moon there, it makes me think it gives a little bit of energy about where we're going, where are we headed. Maybe it just makes people think about it a little bit, especially with Mars into Sag. Because now Mars moves into Sag on this day. So with it kind of calming down a little bit, if you've ever been pissed off, it's not really good to, if you're pissed off, you can't think about what you're going to do next. I don't know why the two happen, but when you're angry, it's really hard to think clearly.
Yeah,
it's
almost
really hard to
impossible.
like think about what comes next and how does this impact people and how am I impacting others and what should I be, like you just don't think of those things. And so when Mars moves into Sag, it would calm that down, and then Mars squaring the North Node will hopefully make us go, is this really the future we want? Do we really want to be warring with each other forever? Right.
And hopefully you're not having regrets about any conversations you might have had, because moon in Aries, I just want to say the other thing about moon in Aries is, remember, moon, what do we think about? We think about water, we think about cool, we think about emotions. What do we think about when we think about Aries? Fire. Action. Aggression, really. And so these are not compatible. And so when we think about Aries, we think about the moon in Aries, the example I sometimes give is it's a nervous energy. It's a cat on a hot tin roof. It's I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't focus. I don't want to answer this question, so I'm going to wiggle away. It's don't corner me.
Mm-hmm.
Because don't corner anybody, right?
Yep.
Charlie's really getting a little itch in there. Scratch, I should say.
Sorry.
My dog, if you can hear my dog and his
itching.
Should have taken his collar off, I guess. So so that's the thing I would say about the moon in Aries, is that energy can
be kind of
jumpy.
like jumpy, kind of edgy.
Things can change quickly because you're in Aries. God,
right.
What's wrong with you? Careful with using a phrase like that.
Right.
I
And
would
then
recommend you choose some other way to say, hey, what's up?
what I've noticed right at the end of the week is this yod starts to
Yeah,
this
I
yod
saw
starts to
that.
form.
Yeah.
And it's actually pointing at the south node. And anything I guess that comes across there, which ends up being Venus, because they're only 5 degrees apart, which is about the biggest orb that I go. But a yod starts to form. I imagine it will get tighter in the coming week. It's pulling from Neptune and Uranus. So Neptune down in Pisces in its rulership, Uranus in that conservative sign of Taurus. And I don't mean to use conservative in a way that some people might take it way differently than what I mean.
We're not talking politically. We're
Yeah, I'm not
talking
talking
about
politically.
conservative energy.
Yeah.
Taurus likes energy a certain way,
They
likes
like
everything a certain
they like
way,
it to stay the same.
and high vibrating.
They resist change, and that's okay. So I mean, they're also super loyal, and less likely to like do things that are unpredictable. But Uranus is there right now, and it's retrograde. And so is Neptune. So that's very internal, and it's pointing it at the south node. So I feel like, and Venus. So I feel like this is very much asking us. We're not going to have any choice at this point to consider love and relationships, and where we came from. We're not going to have any choice in the matter. This is the yod that will kind of demand that we look at that, which we've been talking about all week. But I found that it was interesting that the yod kind of demands, because you cannot stop a yod from happening. Okay.
Right.
A yod will happen.
Yeah.
It just kind of unfolds and happens.
I think that's why they call it the finger of God, because it's like, you will go this way.
Right. And so sometimes it can be kind of good because Neptune and Uranus will be having a great conversation with each other, which is pretty much where we go and what's our dreams like. But it's pointing at Venus, and they're both in conjunct Venus, which is hard to resolve. So it's not always easy. It can sometimes be a difficult thing, but if you follow it, it usually takes you to a good place. And Saturn is still in a square, and it becomes even stronger. So if I was going to say there's going to be a hard day, it's going to be this day, Sunday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's going to be this day. If there was a hard day in the week, this would be it.
And I suspect it would be about relationships because of that
I
Venus.
suspect it would be about relationships, whether we're talking about worldly relationships or personal relationships.
So what we see here, and it's so interesting that the way the themes pop out, because the moon is in Taurus. Who rules Taurus? Venus. So the moon is answering to Venus. So you have a finger of God pointing at Venus. You have the moon answering to Venus. This is powerful energy moving in the direction of Venus. I would pay attention to your relationships. I would pay attention to where Venus is in your chart. And this is powerful. I didn't think of it as challenging as so much as powerful, but I totally get why you would say that.
Yeah.
And you also have it in the moon in trine Juno. Again, relationships. Juno and Venus, very similar energies that we talked about earlier. So fascinating,
Yeah, it's just that last day, that Sunday, maybe you're processing with your spouse and they didn't like what happened on Thanksgiving Day. I've had the experience of saying too much to the in-laws.
Yeah, there's always that ripple that happens after a gathering. You hope it's a good ripple.
And I'm like, oops. And because I'm just like kind of bluntly honest, and I guess sometimes there are things that need to be held back. But I try to, but sometimes it just slips out. It's almost like God come up behind me and just knocks it right out of me. And I'm like, whoa, I just God damn it. And so it happens.
It happens.
It happens, and I think sometimes it's meant to happen. Sometimes I think I'm meant to like kind of either challenge the ties or cut the ties. And if someone's going to cut you off because of something that's truth, you probably don't want to be with them anyway. And that's what I always say is if someone's going to judge you because of who you really are, is it really worth being with them anyway?
I love the Maya Angelou quote. When people show you who they are, believe them. It'll
Right.
save you so much time.
Exactly.
Bless them, believe them, and do whatever you got to do that's right for you.
Right. Right. Yeah. So
But I have to say, we're starting to, you can tell this was a lot less of an intense week in terms of, you can tell we're on the cruising down, kind of calming energy after the eclipses.
mhm.
You know, it's usually takes a couple weeks to get on the other side of the eclipses before it's, I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
tell me if you can relate in the comments. Has it been a little bit intense for you the last month? Yeah, eclipses tend to, you know, bring things in, take things out, sometimes in the other reverse order.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, so wishing you all the very, very best of the week.
I think it's interesting though, like how some people, it's in behind me.
Okay.
It's Uranus. Uranus has been at play this week before the week we just talked about, and Uranus is it can play different roles. It can sometimes be like a lightning strike that burns down the tree, but sometimes it can also be like, wow. Because I'll share with you that yesterday Uranus was I think it was it's in a aspect with the sun and Mars
Mm.
or something like that on yesterday, and I was like, this is Uranus, because I went to cardio rehab, and my doctor adjusted my medication, and he said that medication could be making you short of breath and could be making your exercise harder. So we're just going to back it off. And then next week you can come off of that medication all the way. So I get to come off my heart medication. So very exciting for me. This is the reason I signed up for that heart surgery. Okay. And I got on the treadmill and I just started walking. And I doubled my ability, essentially.
From the week before.
From no, 2 days before.
Oh my God.
So I was like, what? And even the therapist comes over and she has a surprised look on her face. Of course, I read faces really well, being a Scorpio rising. And she's like, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm great. And I have a regular conversation with her. And I tell her that I'm pretty surprised at the numbers. I recognize that I have doubled my ability kind of overnight. And she's like, you sure have. And I was wondering if you were able to have a conversation with me. And I see that you are. You're talking to me okay. And I'm like, right. And now I feel like it might have something to do with the medication. I think he might have been right. And she's like, yeah. And she's like, this is amazing. And, she was very happy for me. But it took me and I did my whole workout for 45 minutes at the cardio rehab. Cardio rehab, they just watch your heartbeat and they kind of help coach you and get back to exercising, because heart conditions can leave you afraid. Okay. And especially this one. And so I did my walk, and then when I got off, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I was like, gosh, I doubled my ability, and I haven't sweat like that in 20 years. I don't know. I've never been able to move that fast and that smoothly for that long, ever, that I can remember. Maybe when I was a kid or something. And I just was flabbergasted is the best. And it was very surprising. That is Uranus. And my chart is ruled by Uranus. So my chart tends to really react to anytime Uranus is in any kind of aspects or anything like that. And so I was like, whoa, that was really intense. And what was happening there was, I was pretty sure, yep, Uranus was in opposition. We just go back one day. Uranus was in opposition to Mars, which I thought was interesting, and it was in conjunct the North Node. So I just want to say that that just because something is in opposition or in a square, and to me it was challenging to get there, but I took the action, which was exercising every day and the visioning myself being able to walk up a hill and things like that. I've taken the action for the reward. So when you take the action, it's not always as bad as you like. The opposition or the square won't come out the same. They'll come out differently. That's what I'm telling you. Okay. So that's pretty much what happened to me. And I was laughing because I was like, here we go. Because this is very Uranian. Like I have had lots of Uranus energy for the last couple of days.
Wow.
So, yeah. So it was funky. It was
So
funky.
while you shuffle the cards, we probably should put us on mute. Why don't you tell us what's going on with the animals in the moon, Lacrosse?
Well, we are going into the owl season. So we're leaving the snake and we're going into owl, which kind of coincides with what's going on with Mars because the owl is a bird of prey. So it's not a sweet little animal. It's not a sweet bird. It is a bird of prey, and it will bite you like it can actually crush. Okay. But the good part about it is you can take everybody says how owls are wisdom, and why are they wisdom? They can turn their head completely in all directions, and their sight is phenomenal. So not only can they see everything, they can see every perspective in it. So I think that's where wisdom comes in. With all this aggressive energy, stop, look all the directions in every way before you attack, before you become that bird of prey. And that's where the wisdom will come from. So I think that's really going to be a big help with the coming times. Stop before you think, before you speak, stop before you act, stop before look on all the directions. Because now you need to take that energy of that owl and start looking in all the different directions. And that's, I actually enjoy. And the funny thing is that the owl is actually the enemy of the crow because they go after the little crow eggs. So,
oh, do they?
yes, they do.
And I was kind of thinking how owl is opposite crow, because like some birds will, talk it up, man. Crow will let you know they're around and talk and make it clear something's going on or going down or whatever. And an owl, you never hear them coming.
Unless they're calling to their mate.
Yeah.
But after they've done that big take-in thing, they are silent and stealth.
Yep. And that's the intro. That's why the crows don't crow at night. They won't call at night because they're giving away where their nesting is. And then the owl will find it and eat the babies or eat the little eggs. So, yeah. But I found that interesting. So look in all the directions. Use that energy before you attack.
Yeah.
So, because worst thing, if you end up going after a pack of crows, they know how to pack a lunch and bring friends to whoop some ass. So even though you're a predator, those crows will pack a lunch and bring some friends. So
yeah, right.
So just be careful with your attack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that.
Ask that question. It's not about being right. It doesn't matter if it's true. Is it necessary? Is it helpful? Are really good questions. It's not helpful what you're about to share. Zip it.
Yeah.
Share it with somebody else who can appreciate it. But man, the shit that goes south, it's usually over the dumbest things.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. So I'm gonna pull a couple of cards here. Pull a couple of cards about flying out. Cards flying out. All right, so I'm going to pull a couple of cards in my tarot deck. in the Pride Love is Love deck. And yeah. Great. So the first card is actually about let me just pin it up so y'all can see. This is the King of Pentacles.
Oh, we haven't seen that one in a long time.
This is very much about your resources and sort of managing your resources in a really good way. And Spirit wants to remind you of a time that you've managed your resources in a good way. Money, physical things, or whatever your resources are. This is very much about managing them in a good way, holding them forward, using them where they're needed, using them as they should be. It's not just about saving. It's also about using them in a productive, good way. Okay? And that's pretty much a reminder in the past from that and the King of Pentacles there. And then we have the King of Cups. I notice we got a lot of kings here. We got two kings. This is the King of Cups, which is the here and now. This is about managing our emotions. This is about managing our thoughts and our emotions and how the two are connected, you know? So if you think something, you'll notice you often feel it right afterwards. And that's pretty much what this is about. This is about how your feelings and your thoughts are connected. You can notice that this king here has like a boat on their head, sailing across their head, and their hair is kind of the water, with birds flying overhead. It's very much meant to give you the feeling of thoughts moving, okay? And with the bubbles and the fish and stuff underwater and the stars, and the look on the king's face isn't exactly pleasant. And it's meant to remind you of the way that our thoughts feed our emotions and how the two are connected. And that's pretty much the King of Cups. And the management of that and allowing yourself to be sad when that's time for that, and allowing yourself to move past that when it's necessary. Okay? So this is about managing our emotions in a good way, though, and recognizing the connection to the thoughts. Okay? And then in the future, this is about doing good work. This is the Eight of Pentacles. So this is pretty much about presenting our work to the world, offering our work as a gift, offering our gift to the world in a way that it displays our best work. Okay, the Eight of Pentacles is really about bringing forth your best work and honoring. Check her out. Check this person out. Honoring the sweat it took to make that. Okay, honoring the work that it took to do that. And this is a good card. This is really about honoring who you are, where you came from, and what you're bringing into the world. Okay, so this is a great future, especially for anyone that's sells things around the holidays or does something for the holidays. This is a gift. Like Bright Hawk. Bright Hawk sells art. You should check out her Etsy art show. Her Etsy art store.
brighthawkart.etsy.com.
Yep, brighthawkart.etsy.com. And so this is very much about that. You know, this is like art. This is like physical things that you might make or other things that you do, like physical things that people would buy. Okay, especially for the holidays. And that's kind of what this makes me think about is, remember that you can manage your resources in a good way. Don't dismiss your amazing ability to manage your resources. You can, including your energy levels, because this is the King of Pentacles and all resources count, including your energies. And then also to remember how your thoughts feed into your emotions. So don't get lost in, thoughts about thinking that you suck or whatever, because those emotions aren't going to get you anywhere, okay? So try to keep positive thinking. This is a reminder of how positive thinking and knowing that you can do it will pull you in the direction of at least having you take the action and displaying and maybe using your energy in a good way to create work that means something in the world, okay? And a display of it. And that's pretty much as it applies to just about anyone that makes things in particular, okay? So whatever your work is in the world, be sure to be good to yourself, okay? When you do work in the world, a lot of us can give ourselves like a bad pep talk, and we don't need to do that. Try to be good to yourself, okay?
And we always say, take what works for you and leave the rest. Well, gosh, this reading feels like it was for me. So I hope you guys got something out of it. But I know this was for me. Not self-centered at all. Sad,
No, Moon and Leo. Yeah.
That's a great reading. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but a lot of us make things. I know Lacrosse, you also do some things.
Oh,
And I'm sure
yeah,
there's times that you dismiss what you do, like just
Oh, art.
I'm like, yeah,
Valuing our creations.
it's that
It's hard.
jack
It's
of all
hard to-
trades.
You know,
Yeah.
it's one thing to be the creator of the art. It's another thing entirely to be the one who says it's worth this and I'm going to sell it for that, and how to run a business and make it work. And these are,
yeah.
you know, I applaud any artist, every artist out there, the authors and people who are trying to get published or publishing themselves, you know.
Yeah.
This is fruitful time for putting action towards your dreams.
That's right. Put action forward, follow your dreams. Neptune is well aspected, so it will help you fulfill your dreams. So,
Yeah,
all right.
for sure. All right.
All
We
right.
wish you all the very
Friends.
best. Thanks for sharing and liking and letting us know how you got through your eclipse season. If you're feeling good,
Yeah. How did it go? What did you lose and what did you bring in? Share it with us. We'd love to hear about it.
congratulate yourself. You survived. You got to now.
Yeah.
Another
Exactly.
milestone.
100%.
All right, my friends.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's Soulstrology and subscribing, liking, sharing, and reviewing. We hope you enjoy this dose of Soulstrology and encourage you to embrace the week ahead with an open mind and heart so that you may integrate the deepest of lessons from the stars. Take a moment to step outside and honor the planets, stars, and moon in the sky with your heart. Integrate the messages that resonate and leave the rest for someone else. We deeply appreciate each and every one of you. Always remember that you are a perfectly unique human with an exclusive star map of your destiny, your soul purpose, and your heart's desire. Thank you again for tuning in to Rainbow Soul.